Hello everybody, I am Dr. Bharti, working as an Assistant Professor of Law at National Law University, Delhi. Today I will be discussing a module on informal access to justice. The objective of this module is to understand the various modes of informal access to justice, how they originated in Indian society and evolved over a year and reached to a present form of informal access to justice mechanism. We will also try to understand what are the advantages and disadvantages of these informal modes of dispute resolution. At last and in end, we will try to understand a critical insight into the manner and mechanism of panchayat forms of dispute resolution mechanism. There have been countless extra informal mechanisms which have been existing from time immemorial and references to which predates the colonial rule and that traces its origin to the laws of Rigvedic Aryavrat. Some of these mechanisms were lost in the sand of time, while others, very little in number, has been amalgamated into the already existing copious load of legislation. First of all, we will try to understand the benefits of informal mode of dispute resolution system. The most important benefit of informal access to justice system is it is very economic. In such mode of dispute resolution, no heavy court fees is provided, no stamp fees is provided, so it is very expensive and it is within the reach of every person despite of his economic resources. Another advantage of informal access to justice system is it is as easily accessible. It need not to follow any technical procedure and it generally disposes of a dispute on the basis of justice, principle and equity. So, it is within the understanding of the litigant which refer their dispute to such dispute resolution mechanism. Third advantage of this mode of dispute resolution is it is less technical. Fourth advantage of this mode of dispute resolution is it speedily disposes of the suit. As we already discussed that this mode of dispute resolution mechanism need not to follow the technical procedure. So, generally it saves the time and the dispute which is referred by the parties is disposed of in a short span of time. Last but not the least, the most important advantage of this dispute resolution mechanism is the amicable settlement of dispute between the parties. Here, it is not like who has done wrong, but more stress is given on disposing of the dispute and at the same time relationship between the parties is also preserved. So, generally when parties get their dispute settled through informal mode of dispute resolution, it leads to amicable settlement of dispute with which no enmity crops up between the party. To start with, we will try to understand the historical overview of the informal access to justice system in India. Dispute resolution has always been an essential component of Indian society. The earlier reference to the concept of the informal dispute resolution mechanism could be found in Dharma Shastra. The Dharma Shastra also dealt with non-adversarial indigenous method of dispute resolution. Samiti was the another body of general deliberations where all kind of policy matter were discussed. This body also discharged legislative and judicial function. The most important function of Samiti was the election and re-election of the king. The king considered himself duty bound to participate in the deliberation of the Samiti and thus emerged to be the sovereign body. Another such bodies involved in informal dispute resolution was Sabha and Khula. The Sabha was another body engaged in dispute resolution at that time. It consisted of selected person and presided over by a king. Sabha was the national judicature due to the reason that the resolution of the Sabha was considered to be binding on all the person. Since caste was a predominant factor, therefore Khula was specifically formed to address the dispute which occasioned between various castes and tribes. Yajnavalkya and Arthashastra also mentions about existence of informal mode of dispute resolution. Even the great scholar Yajnavalkya, who in his work Yajnavalkya Smriti or the treatise on Veda have given reference of specialized courts which were constituted to dispose of dispute of informal nature. Other such courts which were established by the indigenous for the expeditious and informal disposal of dispute were established on the basis of nature of dispute. Reference to courts such as Srini and Puga have been made in Yajnavalakya. Arthashastra also mentioned the significance of dispute resolution mechanism and laid down the procedure of dispute resolution. Parishad was another such body which was engaged in the functioning of informal dispute resolution mechanism. At that time, Parishad was an advisory body on religious matter, but it also discharged some judicial functions. It dealt with matters exclusively pertaining to dispute between the traders, merchant, farmers, bankers and guilds. The Parishads were often the association which were formed by the members of the particular trade or guild or business. It used to decide cases on the basis of principle of justice, equity and good conscience and customary laws. During the Mughal rules, even during the period of Mughal rule, disputes were often resolved by Mahajans who were experienced men from various skills and often spent time by going to the places where dispute had arisen. They were the first ever known people to provide justice at the doorstep of the people. The system had a combination of two elements, mediation as well as arbitration. The Mahajan tried to resolve the dispute and see if the parties would reach a common ground. However, if the same was not arrived at, the Mahajan was empowered to pass an order to reach at a more equitable determination and arrive at an order which was based on principle of justice, equity and good conscience. Another such mode of informal access to justice was village elderly men. From time immemorial, a few elderly village men who were widely respected in the society were always called upon to convene a meeting near a religious place, usually a raised platform of a temple or a mosque or at some other public places, in order to bring out an amicable settlement of dispute existing between the parties. Reason for referring such dispute to such elderly people is their acquaintance with the people. Such elderly people were from the community itself in which the dispute has arisen. So, the parties who are disputing and has referred the matter before them were known to them. Secondly, knowledge of the real dispute to these elderly people, as they are the people who are generally called for settling such dispute which arises in the community. They are in a better position to understand the real cause of such dispute, which is not only prevailing in this particular dispute, but has already arisen and has already existed in many other disputes which had already been referred to them. Thirdly, the relationship which that elderly person had with the people who has referred the dispute to them. They used to possess very respectable position in the eyes of the community. So, whatever they used to say to settle the dispute was taken in a very respectable manner by the person who has referred the dispute to such elderly person. Their vast experience of settling a dispute existing in the society used to give sanctity to their orders. The law which they used to apply for settling the dispute which is referred to them by the community people was not very technical, and they used to settle the dispute on the basis of principle of justice, equity and conscience. The subject matter of these elderly people court was very wide, from distribution of land to the claim of ownership on cattle, from determining the village and the field areas to small trifle matters or family dispute. All such matters were referred to these elderly people. The source of authority behind the order passed by them was the respect which such elderly people used to possess in the eyes of community people. Out of respect, the disputing party used to abide by the order passed by the elderly person. And the sanction which such order used to possess was the outcasting from society. If any person who has referred the dispute to such elderly court, and if elderly person has settled the dispute and passed an order, If such disputing party does not obey and abide such order out of respect, then there were chances and practices of outcasting such person from the community to which they belong. So the fear of being outcast was the sanction behind the order of the elderly men passed in his court for settling the dispute referred to him. This informal mode of settlement of dispute had influence even on the religious mind, which is evident from the saying of some of the religious person, like, according to Lord Buddha, mediation brings wisdom. Lack of mediation leaves ignorance. Know well what leads you forward and what holds you back. Choose that which leads to wisdom. Similarly, Parashar and Patanjali have also said that progress comes swiftly in mediation for those who try hardest, instead of deciding who was right and who was wrong. After understanding the historical overview of the informal mode of dispute resolution mechanism, we will move ahead to see what are the prevalent form of informal access to justice. Arbitration, which saw its advent under the Regulation Act, the earliest record depict that arbitration had been carried out before the High Court of Lord Treasurer and Earl of Godolphin, who adjudicated and passed award in dispute between the East India Company and the Crown, and the Charters Act, and then the later codified into the Arbitration and Conciliation Act. Conciliation is another form of informal dispute resolution mechanism. Conciliation, which finds its mention for the first time in the Industrial Dispute Act 1947 and is then condensed into the Arbitration Conciliation Act of 1996 to the latest edition by the virtue of amendment brought into the Code of Criminal Procedure 1908. Other system of extrajudicial settlement such as Gram Nyayalayas as well as Lok Adalats have been formalized and consolidated into statute because of their far-reaching and effective redressal functioning. The Legal Services Authorities Act 1987 as well as the Gram Nyayalaya Act 2008 has laid down elaborate procedure for the functioning as well as the power and scope of these bodies. Now, we will move ahead to understand that how does these panchayat function in Indian society, how they were functioning before the enactment and how they are functioning in today's time. A panchayat consisted of the sarpanch or mukhya or the village headman, whose task was to preside over the dispute brought to it by the members of the village. The village headman was generally elected by the people of the village and was often one of the elder members of the society. There were 4 other members elected or nominated by the sarpanch. They belonged to different stratas who often assisted the sarpanch in the resolution of dispute. They were called panchas. Earlier, the election of the post of a panch or a sarpanch was made on the basis of the nature of dispute. In case of dispute of commercial nature, the panchas were chosen from a trader guild. In case of matrimonial dispute, panchas were elderly people. If there were an issue involving seed or cattle, then preference was always given to those people who have been cultivators or the cattle rearing men. The jurisdiction of the panchas also extended to cases which were criminal in nature, from damage to property to incident or violent clashes between the communities. The role of panchayat was not reached to only being facilitators, but the power given to them were also that of the adjudicator. If any dispute is referred to the panchayat, then at the first stage, the panchas try to act as a mediator and try to bring in the settlement and compromise to settle the dispute. But despite of effort from the panchas and the sarpanch, if the disputing parties fail to arrive at any conclusion or settlement, then they have adjudicatory function as well, which means on the basis of facts and the evidences laid down before the panchayats, they can finally dispose of the matter and pass an order. which will be binding on the parties. Early evidence suggests that a panch or a sarpanch could be a man or a woman of immense integrity, although in a later phase the sarpanch system was widely dominated by men. The sanction ranged from a simple compensation to the honor of the cattle or a farmer whose crops were destroyed, to a severe penalty as banishment from the village itself. The societal pressure was the sole ground through which the orders were carried out. The fear of being outcast from a village was the sanction behind the order of the panchayat. Many a times it had been seen that the disputing parties, when failed to reach at a compromise or settlement, and when the panchayatas have exercised their adjudicatory function and passed in orders, many a times disputing parties disobey the orders, and the consequence of it could be outcasting from society. So the very fear of being outcast from society and disgrace which it brings with it was the sanction behind the orders of the sarpanchas. After understanding the functioning of the sarpancha and the pancha system of dispute resolution, we will move ahead to understand the impediments, if any, exist in such system of dispute resolution. The only impediment was that these systems were strictly territorial. Unlike the modern legal system, which have extended their overreach to disputants who have not been committed in the territories of a particular region, but also if the offence was committed outside the region against a person who falls within the territorial jurisdiction. These informal dispute resolution systems were only applicable to those people who belonged to that particular village. Any other person who was not a member of that community to which that sarpanch and the panchayat system belongs had no right to agitate his cause in front of that panchayat unless and until he has lived in a community for a prescribed period of time. Since there was no uniform mechanism in place, therefore every panchayat developed its own set of rules for disposing of the matter referred to them. As a matter of convention, the proceedings were kept open and views of all the member societies were taken into consideration before passing of the final order. Also, an opportunity was given to every person who has some interest in a matter pending before the panchayata to express his wish and to represent his part. Since the statement were taken in public, therefore the undertaking given, even if were merely oral in nature, were still taken to be made in good faith and were binding on the parties. Also, every such person, including the mediation, panchas as well as sarpanchas, were under the public gauge, therefore conducted themselves in a manner consistent with the position which they held. There have been numerous instances that a pancha or even a sarpancha recused himself or herself if it was found out that the pancha or sarpancha had a material interest in the outcome of the proceeding. It means if any matter which has been referred to the sarpancha or the panchayat, and if any of the panchas or sarpanch has any pecuniary, proprietary or any other interest in the matter which is pending before him, they generally used to avoid sitting in such dispute settlement process, and they used to refrain themselves from giving their any say in the dispute resolution, just to maintain the impartiality in the dispute resolution mechanism. The proceedings were largely governed by the rules and procedures that were unique to the indigenous population, with due regard to their practices, their tradition and their benefits. These panchayatas often were constituted according to the nature of the problem which is referred before it, and therefore accordingly men were chosen who were regarded an expert by virtue of their skill and experience. From marital dispute to petty issues of boundaries, walls and field demarcation, the panchayatas are discharging their solemn function of bringing an end to dispute without actually putting the parties through the unnecessary ordeal of trial or leading evidences. The procedures are always conducted in public spaces, and every such person who had any stake, any opinion, any say had given a chance to say his part of the story. This system ensures transparency and accountability in the procedure and levels up the faith in these proceedings. With so many witnesses to the proceeding, parties often make very responsible statement before the panchayat and giving undertaking in good faith. Another such mode of informal dispute resolution mechanism is the Mahila Mandal and the Mahila Samitis. Often these bodies are a mixture of both formal as well as informal justice delivery mechanism, but their purpose is unified, that is, to bring an end to any dispute in which a woman is involved and which is referred to them. Under the Family Courts Act 1984 as well as various police manuals which have established Mahila Police Station, these bodies are officially constituted to resolve disputes that have arisen between the parties and are in the nature of domestic or matrimonial dispute. The dispute which can be referred to such Mahila court can consist of temperamental adjustment related problems, visitation and custodial battle, instances of mental or sometimes physical cruelty of a known heinous nature, general maintenance and support claims. Since most of these bodies are not formally operative or are not a creature of a statute, they are often managed and funded by NGOs and other civil societies. In some places, the Mediation and Conciliation Center often taken upon themselves the training and facilitation of the counsellors who are entrusted with the task of bringing out a peaceful and amicable solution between the parties. In this court, all the mediators are females. They ideally come from the same locality, belonging to the same class and have a similar social and cultural background to that of the women in dispute. They are thus best characterized as peer mediator. The main objective behind keeping only Mahila mediators, and that too from a community to which the disputant Mahila belongs, is that the Mahila, and that too from a community to which the disputant Mahila belongs, is in a better position to understand the problems of the Mahilas who are referring their dispute before them. After knowing various informal modes of dispute settlement, we would go ahead to understand implication of informal ADR procedures. Most of the disputes that are resolved are done in the practice of panchas, and therefore they were never recorded. No formal records were kept, and all that remains in the memory of the dispute which may have occasioned. Also, India being a pluralistic society is still vastly run on caste dynamics and caste politics. It is because of all these reasons that various pressure tactics are employed to bring out a favorable outcome for one party. A dispute between two communities where the panchayat belongs to the so-called upper caste would normally rule in favor of the disputant who belongs to their own caste. The system has been therefore widely corrupted by the influence of caste and local politics. Another such informal mode of settlement is the Khap Panchayat. In some geographical areas, Khap Panchayats have given rise to law and order situation where a parallel organization rules the village which has no legal standing. This body lays down its own rules for righteous and ethical conduct, which is consistent with their own rules and procedure, which may or may not have any firm ground in law. On the basis of these rules, they have taken suo motu cognizance of cases, and without giving any opportunity of being heard to the disputing parties, they have passed very severe punishment against them. Issues may be far-reaching, from intercaste marriages to same gotra marriages, and prescribing the age of marriage, which are all in flagrant violation of the constitutional norms. The crisis of jurisdiction or the scope of powers to be used in such proceeding and the feudal mindset are all significant contributing factors which have led to the convention of such illegal bodies. the uneducated and ill-informed masses and their biased mental attitude and belief system further leads to the mushrooming of these bodies, which has brought disrepute to the system of panchayat. However, in the Arumugham Sirvai case, the Supreme Court has given explicit instruction to the local bodies, including the administration, to immediately bring an end to such bodies and to reestablish the rule of law in such areas. To conclude, I would like to say the panchayat system has done a laudable effort in bringing an end to dispute between the litigants. Now, it has achieved a constitutional sanctity by virtue of the 73rd and the 74th Amendment Act of 1993 and 1994. However, the roles which are discharged by them has also suffered directly because of new administrative function which they are supposed to discharge, being the leader of the community. Furthermore, in addition to administrative function, they are also being made custodian of money flowing from all schemes and policies of the government. Therefore, the role of dispute adjudicator has taken a seat back. Earlier, the duty of and the function of panchayat system was of only judicial nature, but now they have been entrusted administrative work as well, and in addition to that they have been made custodian of the fund which the government receive for the implementation of various schemes, due to which sometimes judicial function takes the seat back. For every dispute, a fresh punch were elected depending upon the nature of a dispute, but in today's time it is the elected people who will adjudge every dispute and therefore may not be an expert in the area of the dispute pending before them. The training of these experts still remains a distant dream, but these officers have now been given a statutory recognition. They have also been given power which ensure that their determinations are taken seriously. This process of informal dispute mechanism has emerged as one of the most effective, economic, expeditious mechanism of dispute resolution.